Speaker John Boehner accusing the Tea Party critics of working against the interests of the Republican Party after several conservatives slammed the budget deal that was just passed in the House. Here he is yesterday. He's pretty fired up.
They're misleading their followers. I think they're pushing our members in places where they don't want to be. And frankly, I just think that they've lost all credibility. You know, when they pushed us into this fight to defund Obamacare and to shut down the government. Most of you know, my members know, that wasn't exactly the strategy that I had in mind. But if you'll recall, the day before the government reopened, one of the people at one of these groups stood up and said, well, we never really thought it would work. Are you kidding me?
Wow. Utah Senator Mike Lee is a Tea Party Republican, and he joins me now with his reaction. Senator, good morning. Good to have you here.
Good morning.
So are you kidding him? That's what he wants to know.
Well, look, the point about this budget deal, the point that many of us find disappointing about this budget deal is that as Republicans, we need to be working together to make government more efficient. This deal makes government more expensive. What it does is it takes spending cuts that should be happening now and it puts them off for 10 years. It actually allows for spending to increase in the short term with the mere promise that we will cut 10 years down the road. And as we've all seen, Martha, those promises rarely materialize because one Congress can't bind another Congress, especially 10 years from now.
I mean, all you have to do is look at the $17 trillion in debt to know that you're absolutely right about that. And we have heard for so many years about cutting waste from government spending, and it simply never happens. So I think a lot of people would be understanding of your principle. But what Paul Ryan and John Boehner are arguing is, look, we can never do those things unless we can, basically gain more control on Capitol Hill and put those things through. That's what they say you have to do.
I understand that, Martha, but those of us who have real reservations with this bill are simply suggesting that we follow current law, that we just stick with current law that was passed 2 years ago with bipartisan support in both houses of Congress. And when we look at this bill, we see that one of the ways that this brings more revenue into the equation is by charging more fees to families who travel, increasing their TSA fees. The interesting thing about that, Martha, is that these fees aren't going up in order to make TSA lines shorter. They're not going up in order to make us safer. They're going up so that we can use that money elsewhere in government to support Washington's habit of constantly increasing the amount of money it spends.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's absolutely right. I mean, the talk about this deal is that there's no tax increases, but there is, essentially, because it's exactly what you've just described. The tax is going to go up every time you buy an airline ticket. You're going to pay twice in terms of that fee what you used to pay. So that is absolutely accurate. But I guess I'm wondering how you feel about this debate, because we spoke to Steve Hayes earlier today from the Weekly Standard, and he said, one of the arguments is that the Republican Party needs to focus on health care, because that is the biggest issue that's facing the American people right now. And by doing this divisive thing, and now you've got you guys on the one side and John Boehner saying you've lost all credibility, and he's frankly angry at what you're doing, is that the right political tactic?
Well, look, I can't vote for a bill that I disagree with. I can't vote for a bill that I think is going to make our budgetary situation worse rather than better, especially since it's been a gradually evolving consensus in America that the greatest threat to our national security is our debt and our deficit. So I can't vote for a bill that I fundamentally disagree with. Now, as far as your concerns with what the Speaker said, to my knowledge, the Speaker wasn't speaking to me. He was speaking to some groups. I don't speak for those groups, but I do speak for myself. I intend not to vote for this because I'd like to see us, at a minimum, stick with current law with regard to the total amount of money that we spend in Washington. And I think most of the American people are demanding nothing less than that. They want their government to be more effective and more efficient. They see themselves not getting huge increases every year, and they want the federal government to stay the course and at least not increase the amount of money that it's taking from the people.
Let me ask you one other thing before I let you go about what's going on with health care and the changes that we saw yesterday afternoon, that the government is encouraging these insurance companies to just, you should cover people. We're going to push the deadline a little bit further. Extend your hand, make sure they're covered, and we'll make sure that you get paid down the road. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a problem, and I think it's definitely a step in the direction of what we've all feared, which is a national, single-payer, government-run, government healthcare system, the likes of which can be seen in other countries around the world, many parts of Europe. We're not well suited for this sort of experiment in America. It's not going to work here. This is a step in that direction, and it's, more importantly, Martha, yet another indication that Obamacare is not going to work. It's not working. They know it's not going to work, and so they're trying to backfill all of these problems by just throwing more money at them. And that, too, is going to make us poorer. That, too, is going to take money away from hardworking Americans and bring it to Washington where it doesn't belong.
What do you see happening in January? Because a lot of people are talking about complete chaos at the beginning of 2014 when folks go to the doctor and realize they may not then be covered at all.
Yeah, that's right. So you've got that problem. You've got the problem of the people losing their health benefits, other people who will be losing jobs sometime in the next 12 months or so because of this law. But you also have the problem of the people who signed up for health care, who entered into a contract, and then may discover that through some